This episode is brought to you by my clothing brand, Son of Man. You can go check it out. Season 2, we just launched it through the show notes in the description, or go to sonofmanskate.co.nz and check it out. Hey, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 3 of the Son of Man podcast. My name is Paul, and I'm the creator of Son of Man, a clothing brand that's bigger than just clothes. And in today's episode, that's actually what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about my experiences of starting a clothing brand, what it's been like, give you guys a realistic view of what it's like actually starting a brand, especially a clothing brand. If you're interested in it, or if you just want to learn more, or whatever it is, I hope you find this entertaining, hope you find this valuable. And before we get into it, actually, I just have one request, and that's if you guys have been enjoying the podcast, or if you enjoy this episode, please just go and leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher, wherever this is, or even if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a like. But please leave a 5-star review. I'm trying to grow this podcast and try get on that new and noteworthy list on all the different podcasting platforms. So if you could do me one fat favor, it'd be just leave a review, and that's all I ask of you. But anyway, let's get into the episode. So to give you a bit of context of where we're at, I went to a conference in about the middle of when I was in year 12 at school, so that would have been 2018, I think. Yeah, it would have been the middle of 2018 is when I got the idea to start a clothing brand, and it wasn't until January of 2019 that I actually launched it. So in that time, I was researching how do you actually print clothes, what's the best way, how can I do it within my budget, because at the time, I probably wasn't earning. I was still at McDonald's part-time, but I don't think I was working as many hours because I was at school all day. And so when you're at McDonald's, all the school kids try work like 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. is like the big shift. Not a big shift, but like the most common, like perfect shift. Then you go to school the next day. So it was tough competition to get hours at McDonald's because pretty much 90% of the workforce is just school kids. So I probably wasn't working a whole lot of hours. Didn't have a whole lot of money, so I was trying to figure out ways where I could basically make clothes and start a whole business online. Obviously, I wasn't buying a store, and how I could do that in the most economical and financial way possible. And what I ended up settling on was basically getting the blank clothes in from a website where I found what they did is they brought, so AS Colour is like the big blank shirt company here in New Zealand. I think a lot of people use it overseas as well. I've seen people in the States use it, probably a lot in Australia, but it's in New Zealand, and basically they have like the real nice quality stuff, but it's quite expensive. And so obviously it's way cheaper if you buy like 500 plus items of a specific shirt, but there's no way I was doing that. But I found this website that did that, and then basically made all the price brackets smaller, so I could buy at that price point of buying like over 100 shirts, but with only having to buy 5 or 10. So what I ended up doing is choosing some of the garments. So for example, like some hoodies, some long sleeves, some t-shirts, just the basic stuff, and a few women's t-shirts, and getting a few colors of each, and then getting the designs. And so in terms of getting the designs onto the t-shirts themselves, there's a few ways you can do this. One is, it's basically heat transfer or screen printing or embroidery, but embroidery is kind of like its own different thing that we won't talk about yet. So in terms of getting like colored prints on a shirt, there's 2 main ways. It's heat transfer and screen printing. And screen printing is like the good way of doing it if you're doing a whole lot of shirts, because you just set up the screen, which has a fixed cost, but after that it's super cheap to make on a whole lot of things. But you also need to pay per color, and it only really works if you're doing a whole lot of shirts, which is why I went for the heat transfer option. And now within the heat transfer, there's a few ways you can do this. I started off just by experimenting with the iron-on like transfers, and they were rubbish. I thought they would be, but I thought I'd try it out anyway. Basically, you print it through a printer, and then put it on the t-shirt, the piece of paper, and basically just do it with the iron, and it's crap. It comes out it just comes out the first wash, and it looks rubbish. And I couldn't actually print on A3 size paper because my printer wasn't big enough, so I had to try to do some stuff. It was terrible. It didn't really work. So the next step up was using a heat press, and I didn't have a heat press, but even then it was still the most economical way to go, which is why I brought a heat press off Trade Me, which is basically like the eBay here in New Zealand. And it was good. Like, the heat press was great. It worked. It didn't break. It was a bit like, I knew it was coming from China's, might be a little bit sketchy, but no, it actually turned out great. And looking back, obviously, I think the best, most economical way to do this would have just been create a few shirts, a few designs, and get them printed by a professional. That would have been like, if I looked back and did this, that definitely would have been the way to do it. But what I did was I picked too many colors, too many designs, too many different garments. Like, if I was to start again, I would literally get like a t-shirt, maybe like 2 or 3 designs, maybe a couple colors at most, and then just roll with that. Maybe even just starting with white or black t-shirts would probably be the best way to do it. But I didn't go that way, and it turned out to be quite expensive. But anyway, even with the heat press and all that, the quality was fine. Like, I felt all good selling it, but it wasn't like professional. And there's a few problems with it. It's one, because I had to line it up just by eye. Like, I'd have to put the design on, then heat press it. But there's no way to measure, like, is this in the middle? Well, you can kind of measure if it's in the middle, but you're pretty much just eyeballing it. And it's, like, not great. Sometimes when I would, like, pull the heat press part off, like, it would just rip. And that'd be a waste. I showed up I put some designs on backwards, and I obviously wouldn't sell them. But again, that's just another waste of money. And it just wasn't a great way of doing it. But anyway, here we are in 2019. I had all my shirts, all my designs done. I took the photos, got the Shopify site up, started doing some advertising. I didn't really know what I was doing with advertising. Straight up just chucked the shirts on Facebook and advertised them, and people be like, yo, buy these. And it just wasn't really working. A few people I knew in real life bought some shirts because they are for the boys, but it's really hard to convince people who you've never met before to buy some designs that were real basic. And like, some of the designs were straight up to say SOMS for Son of Manscaped, and it's like, why would anyone actually buy this? And so there's a couple things I realized. The shirts themselves, the quality was kind of average, and 2, there's really like no reason for them to buy these shirts. So that's why, instead of focusing more money on advertising and all that, I decided just to like take a pause and start designing new stuff for a new collection. So about halfway through 2019 is when I took that pause, sort of stopped all the advertising and everything, and just started focusing on designing collection number 2, which ended up coming out February 14th. This year of 2020. And what I did then was I spent more time designing, more time just trying to get a better product out. And also, on top of the better designs, also went to a professional, like an actual screen printer, who also do embroidery and all that sort of stuff, and to get them to make it, which was more expensive. The shirts were definitely more expensive to make, but so much better quality. I feel better selling them. I feel like I could sell them for a higher price, and it turned out a whole lot better. However, I did make the same mistake again. I chose the thing was, I already cut it down a lot, but I just ordered way too many shirts. And the reason was not because I ordered a lot of each shirt, it's because I had a lot of designs that I wanted to get in different colors and at different sizes. Because the thing with clothes is I came up with a design, chuck them on a few different colors and a few different types of garments. So that's already like a lot of products. For example, you have one design, you want it on a blue shirt, a white shirt, a yellow shirt, you want it on a hoodie, you want it on the female's shirt, you want it on a long sleeve, you want it on a muscle tee, or like a stonewash tee, and all of a sudden, from that one design, you have a whole bunch of shirts, and then it doesn't even stop there, because you have to get the different sizes. You don't know if you should be getting, you need to get a range of small to medium to large to extra large, and that's all I've done. And people have come up to me like, oh, yo, you got like a double, triple XL. I'm like, oh, crap. Like, you just can't afford too many things, because it gets expensive really quickly. And so again, what I wish I did, just a couple designs on a couple colors at most, then maybe just stick. I already got rid of the long sleeve tees, because I too expensive and I couldn't buy anymore. I got just tees. Stonewash tees I probably could have not got. I like the hoodie. The hoodie's been real popular, and I just love it personally. And then there's a muscle tee as well, and there's like, it adds up real quick. I try to cut it down. I only got a couple in each size for some things, maybe even one thing in each size from some things, just because it got super expensive. So again, I would have just had a few designs, a few colors at most, on a t-shirt and like a hoodie maybe. Might have been the only garments I chose. But anyway, here we are now. I spent about $3,000 on the clothes, which is like way too much. That's why I shouldn't have done that, especially without really a proper audience at all, and just going from scratch. Like, that's not the way to go about it. But hey, I'm learning stuff every day. I feel like I'm learning more from this business than I've learned going to university or school, at least. So just learning a lot. But here we are with the products. And so the whole time I was designing this second collection, I just listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot about marketing and a few other things, but a lot about marketing because I feel like that was one of my problems and I wanted to learn more about. And so I had this strategy on Facebook, and it makes a lot of sense, but I couldn't make it work just because it was too expensive. Basically, the reason Facebook advertising is so powerful is not just because you can target specific people based on what they're interested in, their age and their gender and all that sort of stuff, but you can also target people who have already been on your website and they've done different levels of activities on your website. For example, you can target people who have just been to your website and done nothing else, or people who have purchased, people who have added to the cart but they haven't purchased, people who have viewed a product but they haven't added it to their cart, and you can send individual adverts to each of these different segments, which is why Facebook advertising is so powerful. So I was listening to a marketing podcast, and the strategy, I don't know if it has a name, but if you break up your all your customers into 5 different levels, and you target each of them with a different ad to pour them through a funnel, a sales funnel, which I won't really go into detail here. But for example, if you start at level 1, these are people who have like never heard about you. Or is it level 0? Might be level 0. Okay, this didn't end up working, but we're going to go with it, so hear me out. You start off with your cold traffic, the people who have never heard about you, don't know who you are, never seen anything from you, and your goal is to get them to see something about you, whether it's just a video or if it's something on your feed, on social media, whatever it is, you just want to get them to see some sort of content from you, and that's when they go to level 1. And once they're at level 1, they've seen something from you, they've heard about you, but that's about it. You haven't taken them off social media, they haven't been to your website, and so you get them from social media just to go to your homepage or just to a product, or not a product page yet. And so yeah, I was just listening to what I said, and it's not really making sense. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I might do a podcast on the 5 steps because it does actually make sense, but I couldn't get it to work because I couldn't get people who viewed my website to a product page cheap enough. It was costing too much money. There was like a bottleneck there in the system and I couldn't figure it out. It was getting too expensive, so I just canned it, and I've gone to a different strategy which I'm going to start talking about. So I did make a sale a couple days ago, but before that it had been like over a month since I made a sale, and so I thought, even with all the advertising stuff, I'm like, you know what, this isn't working, I'm spending too much money, literally no money is coming in, so we're going to change up the strategy a little bit here, which is why I've pushed to a more content and more value-based strategy instead of just advertising, which I'm going to be talking more about content in the next episode, so if that's not out yet, you should subscribe and you can listen to that when that comes out. But what I've been doing is just putting out a whole bunch of just content like this podcast and vlogs and a whole lot of content on social media, and just trying to create relationships with people, get to know people a bit more, engage more with the community, and already I've seen like a lot more engagement, people saying how dope everything is, how cool the content is, so I'm going to be diving more into this and just more content and less advertising. So Gary Vee has this, he wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. Oh, is that even what it was called? But that's what it was about, at least. And basically the jabs are just content, just value and straight, just value and giving consumers a reason to like listen to you. And then when you have something to sell, that's when you come in with the right hook to sell, instead of some people, which is what I was doing, and just dishing out right hooks, just trying to sell the whole time, and it wasn't working. So that's a new strategy I've been trying and doing. And the thing with this whole content strategy is that it's not going to be a short-term thing. Like, just by putting out a podcast doesn't mean I'm going to make any sales. Like, not many people even listen to this podcast. And the thing is, like, Gary Vee was making like his show for 18 months before it really caught on and got engagement. And another podcast I listened to said he went a whole year and he finished off the year with getting about 10 listens per episode. So this whole strategy and this whole podcast is definitely for a long-term strategy. I'm not really even going to be making a decision whether I'm going to keep going or not, or whether I should cancel the podcast until 18 months time. I'm just going to go hard, just come up with content, interview some people in the future soon, hopefully, get some people listening, and hopefully in 18 months time I can look back, hey, this still wasn't working, and then I might pull the plug. But until then, this is the strategy we're going for. Now, I'm going to be talking more about the strategy and the whole content thing in the next episode, as I said before, so make sure to subscribe. But anyway, we've basically caught up to... Oh, what I haven't talked about is how we're going this year so far. So we're now... What's today? April 10th. So we're about just over a quarter of the way through the year, and we've done 6 sales. So it's not a lot, and most of the sales were to people I knew in real life. But again, we're on the start of a new strategy. It's really a long-term thing. I'm in this for the long term, because the thing is, like, I'm still studying at university, So that's still another 1.5 years before I get a degree, hopefully. And I'm still working like good hours, a good 30 hours a week at McDonald's. So I got some income. I'm doing a degree, don't really have any expenses because I'm staying at home. So even if this brand doesn't take off in the next couple years, like that's fine. But my plan is in the next 5 years for it to go somewhere, basically. So that's why I'm doing this long-term investing here, and we'll see what happens. But even in saying that, doing 6 sales so far, times that by 4 to get to the rest of the year. You're looking at 20 to 24 sales for the whole year is the current projection. And last year, as I said, we did 8 sales the whole year. So it's looking better than last year. We're making progress, and we got some long-term strategies going. So anyway, that's caught up to where we're at the moment with Son of Man. Some exciting stuff coming, so I hope you guys subscribe. I hope you guys stay tuned. As I said, please, if you can, leave a review, and that would be amazing. That'd help me out so much. Check out all the social media, which will be linked in the show notes below. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.